Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome to learning from our community history program of Hujjat Jamaat. In this program, we hold series of conversations with individuals from our community. We will explore and share their place and our community's place through their stories of struggle, loss, achievements, courage, and disappointments, and show how these events and their personal values helps shaped their family, their community, and wider society. We hope that such conversations will help understand ourselves as a community and makes us better decision makers. These conversations will also be part of our community history. Today, I have with me a personality known to many of us, particularly those who come from East Africa. He is Alhaj Mohamed Pirbhai. He was born in Dar es Salaam in July 1940. He has two brothers, Mustafa and Mohsen, and two sisters, Masuma Bai and Zahra Bai. After completion of his O-levels, he came to UK in 1958 to pursue a degree course in civil engineering and returned to Dar es Salaam and set up a construction company with Sudhir Chawda, his school day colleague. The firm designed and constructed many buildings in Tanzania and lasted 50 years with a quality reputation. He is a member of Civil Engineering of UK, Fellow of American Society of Civil Engineers, founder members of Association of Consulting Engineers in Tanzania, and member of Tanzania Engineers. Mohamed Bai was a vice president of Africa Federation for 6 years from 1997, committee members of Dar es Salaam Jamaat in mid-1967. He was a member of Housing Board in charge of Maveni and Mataka project and including Sabodo Car Park in Dar es Salaam. We will explore his life history and what I have just touched upon shortly. But before I do that, let me welcome Mohamed Bhai. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
કેમ છો તમે?
બસ મજામાં.
હું આ ગુજરાતીમાં તો નહીં રાખું, પણ આપણને જો ગુજરાતીમાં બોલવું હોય તો ગુજરાતીમાં બોલશું અને ઇંગ્લિશમાં તો ઇંગ્લિશમાં. But let me start with English and we can continue with both languages. So let me begin with how are you and what are you doing nowadays?
Okay, thank you for inviting me here to share my experience with the community and otherwise, and know a little bit more about ourselves, how the community is today and how the community was yesterday, and my experiences with various community leaders. Okay, let me start with my childhood.
Before we go into that, I will come into that. But how are you keeping at the moment?
No, I'm fine. I'm almost retired now, having worked for 50 years and more.
Right.
So I'm doing now mainly visiting my family members who are all spread out throughout the world. Canada, USA. My one daughter is in USA. Two daughters are in London. And my family members, like my brothers, they are also in London. So I spend a lot of time now away from Dar es Salaam.
Right. So when you come to UK, it must remind you of your old days here. And have you seen a lot of changes?
Yes, a lot of changes. First, I landed in London after finishing my senior Cambridge in East Africa, in Tanzania. I came to London I landed on 5th of August. I still remember the date, 1959.
1959.
59.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
At that time, I think to receive me at the airport, people were not received at the airport. They had to come to Victoria station, and then they would meet their uh, guest, their host or their family members.
Mm-hmm.
But in my case, somehow 4 people came to receive me.
Oh, who were they?
One was Marum Murtaza Laka,
Mm-hmm.
one was Bashir Versi, one
Right.
was Anwar Rajpal,
Mm-hmm.
and then Bashir Chato. All were professionals, good family members relationship.
So that was that time. Now
that time.
now when you come, so your family members come to receive you then.
Now most of the time, my daughters are here, so
Right.
they take this opportunity to receive me.
And how many grandchildren have you got?
I've got 8.
8.
3 in
Mashallah.
USA and 5 in London.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's begin with your birthplace, Dar es Salaam. So you're born in Dar es Salaam, and schooled presumably in Dar es Salaam, primary, secondary.
Yeah.
So perhaps you can start with Dar es Salaam. Tell me something about your parents. You were born during, I think, war, wasn't it?
During wartime,
1944,
yes,
yeah.
1940.
So what was
yeah.
life like that growing up soon after the war in Dar es Salaam?
You see, my father was a volunteer officer during the wartime. His job was to make sure that there were no lights to be seen during after darkness, just for the fear of bombardment or whatever the case may be. And I don't remember much about wartime because I was small,
Very young, yeah.
very young. But let me start like this: that then the life became normal after the war, and we all went to school. It was government Indian secondary school. At that time, during those years, schools were classified: one for local population, one for Europeans, one for.
So it was divided
Indians,
like that.
Divided like that. So I went to government Indian secondary school. Very.
And taught in Indian language or English?
Both language.
Both languages.
English and
so Gujarati
Indian
was the
Gujarati
language.
was the person. So I don't mind saying my Gujarati is not bad. I still speak good
So
Gujarati.
આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં વાતો કરી શકીએ.
ગુજરાતીમાં આપણે વાતો કરી શકીએ છીએ, કાંઈ
Inshallah.
પ્રોબ્લેમ નથી. અને 1958માં I finished my senior Cambridge.
Okay.
In Dar es Salaam. My father decided that I should go for further education.
So why UK then? I mean, what made you decide on that? Yeah.
In fact, India was preferred to UK during that period. It was also cheaper, you know. At that time, people were not very well to do. Most of them were hand to mouth, and others were a little bit better off, but not luxury. There were few families who were very well to do. They were helping others also. So, but my father decided UK because he must have heard good things about UK.
Right. Okay.
And I said, you better go to UK. So I said, okay, fair enough. Now we did not have careers to guide us what to study.
They call it careers guidance. We didn't have any of
we
that.
did not have. So he said, you go for further studies. I said, yes, but what for?
Oh, so at that time you were not aware what to do?
I was not aware.
Okay.
And I had a pharmacy shop in front of my house, and I saw them doing very good business. So I said, I must do pharmacy.
Okay. Based on that?
Based on that,
right.
Just like that. And then I took a flight from Dar es Salaam to Mombasa, Mombasa to London. And Mombasa airport, I met a gentleman called J.M. Jaffer, was very well known in government circles and community.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Mohammed, where are you going? I said, I'm going to UK. What for? I said, I'm going to study pharmacy. No, this is the age of technology. You do
So he must be far-sighted a man.
Far-sighted man.
For you to
Yeah, and he
give
was
it
very
such
well,
guidance. Yeah.
He was very well connected with government. He had a very good
Okay.
reputation. He knew the governor.
What's his name?
Personally. Jem Jaffer.
Jem Jaffer, okay.
Yeah. So during the flight to London, all the way I was thinking, am I making a mistake, or what has he told me is what I should do, or I was confused. I landed in London, I met some.
And you are not the only one. Many young people go through that confusion.
That's right, yeah. Eventually, to cut the story short, I decided that I should follow the advice of this Jem Jaffer.
Right.
And I changed my course direction from pharmacy to engineering.
Civil engineering.
Civil engineering. So I went to this, we had Tanganyika office here, education office.
In London?
In London. It was run by Tanzania government, Tanganyika government at that time. And we had Mr. Gill. His name was Mr. Gill. He was very nice chap. So I went to him. I said, look, I'm changing my mind. And I want to now do engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to change the subjects. Biology is out and physics is in, and all combinations. He said, are you sure you will not come back to me again? I said, you have put fear in me, so I will not come back. I will do engineering and I'll stick to it. So I went to, my first year was spent in Plymouth.
Right.
Doing A-levels.
Mm-hmm.
Now in Plymouth, before me, Bashir Chatu had done his A-levels. And Dr. Shaukat Hussain, Nazar Ali Hussain, he had done his A-levels also.
Mm-hmm. All in Plymouth?
All in Plymouth
Right.
at that time. There were only two from East Africa.
Mm.
But they had finished when I came. So they had organized my accommodation with the landlady, Mrs. Willingham. She was very nice landlady, very understanding. And Asghar Manji also got accommodation just across the road. The landlady's name, I think, was Mrs. Pengali.
Asghar Manji.
Asghar Manji.
Asghar
Manji, yeah. From Tanga.
Mm.
And we had met first time, actually.
He was studying as well there?
We studied together.
Okay. Mm.
We studied together. So he was also very nice person, religious person, came from a good family. And I think we both were very happy with each other.
Do you remember any sort of event that happened to both of you?
Oh yes, a very interesting event came when we were in Plymouth.
Mm-hmm.
Now at that time, as I said before, there were only two of us from East Africa.
Mm.
And the other, our Muslim brothers were mainly from Iraq. The first time I had seen Iraqi people,
Mm-hmm.
and they were white, and I said, they were Europeans or they are white people, I don't know. And later on I found out that they were from Iraq.
Mm.
You see, our knowledge was limited.
That's right. Our world was East Africa.
East Africa.
Yeah, Dar es Salaam in
Yeah.
your case. Yeah.
And we made good friends with them.
Mm.
But I found they were not following the religion like we were doing.
Mhm.
Our foundation was quite strong in East Africa.
Religious wise. Mm.
And they come the month of my Ramzan. So I told Asghar, look, we have to fast. Asghar said, yes, we have to fast. Now it was the month of December,
Winter.
winter. So I said, it's very nice. We will not have to endure too much heat, and we will fast. So Asghar and myself started fasting. I told my landlady that these are our requirements. We need something to eat before we go to bed, and whatever little. And she was very nice, very, very cooperative. She said, don't worry, I will help you. But tell me, what is fasting?
Mm.
I said, my God, you have asked me a big question. Now I have to study. So I asked Asghar, I said, she has asked me this. He said, tell her that from sunrise to sunset. But I said, the sunset is at 4 o'clock.
Mm.
How can it be? In Dar es Salaam, we are fasting up to 6:30.
Mm.
He said, no, the religion says up to 4:30 we finish. So this was the kind of thing going on. But the interesting part was when we had finished the fasting the whole month, and Eid was to be celebrated next day. So I told Asghar, I said, we must do something, And tomorrow is Eid, we must wear good clothes and tell the landlady to prepare some nice dishes. Asghar said, no, we must do more than that. I said, what is more than that? He said, let us go to the newspaper. There was one local newspaper, Plymouth.
Why did you want to go to newspaper?
We wanted to tell the newspaper that, look, tomorrow is our Eid. It is celebrated throughout Middle East. And we also want to
celebrate in England.
In England.
Yeah.
So the editor got a little bit excited and interested also. He said, I would like to know something more about it. He said, what are you going to do tomorrow? He said, the first thing we do is we have to say our prayers tomorrow. Where will you say your prayers? He wanted to know all these things. I said, I don't know of any place, but the only open place I can find is at the seashore, beach. It's called Plymouth Hoe. Hoe means it was a sea resort.
Yeah. A place where people relax. Yeah.
So I told all these Iraqi brothers that, look, we are going to celebrate. He said, but we have not fasted. I said, don't worry, we will celebrate. Are you willing to participate? He said, yes, we will all come. So next day, the editor told us that I will send my reporters. What time? I said 7:30. He said, isn't it too early in the morning? I said, no, 7:30 is fine. Without realizing that it was winter, you see. So we went to Iraqi brothers and they all agreed that they will come. So at 7:30 they all were there and we were there. And it was cold. And I said, who knows how to lead the players? I don't know. I told Asghar, I don't know. You know? He says, I don't know. Then, luckily enough, there was one Iraqi. He said, look, I know how to lead the prayers because I come from that part of Iraq where my father was the officer in charge of the mosque, and he taught me. So he said, okay, now the biggest question came. It was so cold. What to do? To pray with shoes or without shoes? So there was another Iraqi chap. He said, I know something about rules of prayers. If you can't pray without shoes, then you pray with shoes. I said, okay, if you say so, we will tell.
So you prayed with shoes?
We prayed with shoes. And then the next day, the newspaper gave a story that Muslims have celebrated Eid yesterday, and they were doing this, and at the Hoe they prayed and they did this. And then there was a flood of inquiries that, what is this? We were praying for Eid and fasting, and we have never heard of this before. Anyway, so that was done. And
so that was quite eventful for you.
Quite eventful, and we were very happy also. But that was my first year. It ended there, and I stayed only 1 year in Plymouth. Then the second year I came to London.
Now that's the area where, that's the place where there was already existing Ishnashri Union?
No.
West Africa Ishnashri Union?
No. In East African Ishnashri Union was formed in 1958 in London.
Yeah, but when you went to London, that was already there?
That was already there.
Right, okay.
And the first president of our union was Dr. Ibrahim Juma from Tanga. He was a physician, very hard-working, very learned
so
man.
Just to stop you, for our listener, the first organization of Khoja Shia Ishnashris was this union, Ishnashri Union. That's the first institution.
First.
Okay.
And Ibrahim Juma, doctor, was the first president.
Who was the first president, Dr.?
Ibrahim Juma.
Ibrahim Juma.
He was originally from Tanga. Very nice person, very well respected, very clever. and he got also a scholarship. And Admiral Rajpal was the first secretary.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a constitution which was drafted by Murtaza Laka Marum,
Mm-hmm.
Bashir Versi, Bashir Chatu, if I remember right.
So that was our first constitution.
First constitution.
Hoja Shiash Nashi.
So, and Dr. Ibrahim then got a scholarship to study FRCS, I think in medical terms, FRCS, Fellow of Royal Society of
Royal College of Science.
Royal College of Science. And so he went to Edinburgh, and the post became vacant. So Anwar Rajpal said, okay, I will take up that post, President. And he invited me, asked me to become his secretary.
Oh, so you became secretary of the Hoja Shiash Nashi Union.
Yeah. Now our first aim was to observe all the religious days. That was in the constitution, you see.
And where were you observing those days?
Okay, fine. In various places, but majority of the events took place at Barnet, Lionsdown Road, the place belonging to my aunt, actually, coincidentally my aunt, Mariam Bai Jiva.
All right, okay.
And we were all looking forward to it for one or two reasons. That was a nice gathering there. Everybody enjoyed. The Fatiha at that time was very good. We all looked forward
to an Indian Fatiha.
Indian Fatiha, and it will surprise you, but there were no Indian restaurants at that time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only one halal restaurant, but at that time it was not possible to
get halal food.
And Mariam Bai, during this Ashura period, she would make a khichuro. So it was full attendance that way.
Full attendance?
Full attendance. Now, full attendance, when I say, it was not in big numbers, 23.
Those who were here?
Those who were
students,
here, 23.
And majority of those students were from which part of East Africa?
Majority was from Zanzibar.
Right.
And they were all very well organized. They knew the religion, I think, much better than many of us. And they were all very keen to observe, and especially the Wafat days. And there was one lady.
So amongst the 23 students, majority of all of them except one was a lady.
Lady, yeah.
So one was a lady.
She was from Kampala, since she was doing a nursing course. But most of the...
What was her name?
Nurbanubai Rashid, if I remember right.
She came for a career here.
For career, yeah. And the Zanzibar, I think the majority, about 9 or 10 were from Zanzibar.
As many as that? Okay.
And I don't remember anybody from Mombasa. Nairobi was non-existent at that time. Kampala, there were 1 or 2. There were 2 from Kampala, and from Mwanza there were 2. From Bukoba there was 1 of all the places, and some were from Dar es Salaam, about 5 or 6. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And from Zanzibar we had Murtaza Laka, who was reciting religious rites, munajat. Sometimes he would give a lecture. At that time we also had Waris Hassan from Pakistan, who helped us a lot. He was reciting very good majlises, and without any charge he would
recite the majlises.
Would spend the money from his own pocket. And it will surprise you if I tell you a short story that how to inform these 23 people that there were no telephones in the house. East Africa had 1 telephone, but that was all. He had a Gestetner machine, printing machine, Gestetner.
Okay.
Stencils.
All right.
We used to write with hand, the circular, and I would post it one week before the event that there is Majlis
So it was by post.
by post.
So
I used to inform the 23 that there is a Majlis, and they would most of them would come, most of them, all the time. Now one day we had a committee, we decided that stencil writing is a bit laborious and doesn't look very neat. Why don't we buy a typewriter so that it is nice and clean? So we said, okay. At that time we had Fida Rajpar, Anwar Rajpar's brother. He said, I have a client.
Anwar Rajpar's brother.
Cousin brother.
Cousin brother.
He said, I have a client who is dealing with these typewriters, and if you want, I can try to get the maximum discount. I said, fine, that will be very nice if you can do that. So next day he came to me, he said, look, I've got a discount for you, and it is £37 you pay. So I went to that shop, typewriter. I said, we want this typewriter. He said, yes, you can have it, £37. I said, no, I haven't got £37, I've got £33. He said, I've given you the best offer, I can't do anything more than this. I said, but still my pocket says £33, not 37. And we did not agree. So I came back, and for the rest of the year, we used stencils. So you can see the difference between 37 and
33 in your life. Yeah.
It was a big difference.
Yeah, big difference at the time. Yeah, I want to sort of, I want to finish this part of your life. So you became a secretary to Anwar Rajpar, and the International Union sort of flourished. Presumably more students came.
More students
came. Just name some of the students, or rather the colleagues that you were working with. One was Anwar Rajpar, Bashir Versi, Murza Bhai Lakha, Roza Datu, Mohsin Bhai Dharamsi, presumably.
Then Dr. Jafar Tajani, Marhum.
Yeah, he was there as well, right.
And there were a few
was it a very close, neat sort of a group, helping each other all the time?
It was helping each other all the time, and all the time we were very happy to meet each other, and it was a nice group.
So you had a sort of a sort of stable time in a way.
Times,
and you didn't remember home much, I take it.
No,
because you had many colleagues from East Africa.
That's right. Yeah.
So were you think of settling in UK, or always you were thinking that I would go back?
No, you see, I came from a family which was very close, and I was enjoying myself. That is one thing I did not like, and who likes it? Even today, if you see, is the winter.
Okay, winter in the UK.
Yeah, the day I was leaving for good from England, I said, thank you very much. I have really enjoyed here, but it's the winter. So I went back.
Okay, let's continue with that now. You went back, you qualified as a civil engineer. Obviously, if there is anything that you want to relate to, we'll come back to it. But let's now move forward to Dar es Salaam. You went to Dar es Salaam as a qualified civil engineer.
Civil engineer.
So, a lot of expectations from your family about you, or the community. How did you feel when you arrived in Dar es Salaam as a civil engineer now?
Yeah. You see, if I don't want to say too much about it, but I think I was the only civil engineering from our community.
Okay, the first one.
The first one, yeah. And it is understandable because it was out of 23 students, so many from Zanzibar. From Dar es Salaam, there were only about 6, yeah.
6 of you,
and
right.
Some went for medicine, some went for pharmacy, and some myself. You see, because we did not have career advisor at that time, it was very difficult for all of us to find a good profession. They were all determined to go for further studies, get a degree, but which course to take and how long it will take, whether...
So there was no understanding
No
behind
understanding,
it.
yeah. At least in my case. I don't know too much about others. But one thing was, when I talk personally to you, I had a lot of respect for people from Zanzibar.
From Zanzibar?
From Zanzibar, they came with a good knowledge of both secular and religious knowledge.
So those students who were there from
Yeah.
Zanzibar had that.
And
yeah.
that helped us a lot in organizing our programs, etc.
Mhm.
We may have made mistakes one or two here and there, but otherwise, with the support of this Barnett, my aunt, I think we were able to observe our religion
least the
in a good
major
way. Major
events, yeah.
Major events.
So when you were in Dar es Salaam now, Tanganyika, presumably independence was already sort of given or not?
No, not yet,
Not
because
yet.
it's the self-government came in 61, and in 63, Tanzania got full independence.
63.
63.
Right.
And at that time, I remember when the first president to be, at that time to be, Julius Nyerere, he came to London. He was still not a president. He was in the transition period. And we went to the airport to receive him. To receive him. There were 8 people. Five were Russians and 3 were local people. And then he shook hands with all of us. And he said, look, you have come very early to receive me. And you must be hungry. You come for breakfast. It was a Savoy Hotel in Hyde Park.
Right.
So we were all so excited. And we said,
so you had a breakfast with President Nyerere.
Yeah.
Okay.
After breakfast, we said goodbye, and then
how did you see him subsequently as his presidency? How did you? We'll come back to that to your career in a minute. But how did you see the presidency of Mwalimu Nyerere? Because you spent most of the time in Dar es Salaam.
No, he was a very humble man, very sincere, I think. He wanted to do some good things about his own people, and he did not. He was not money-minded. He respected people who worked hard, and especially when I remember when at that time he sent his Minister of Education to London to make a survey of students who were pursuing courses, and then they would offer employment
to the students.
So he cared. He cared, I think, for
his people and the country as well.
Country. I have respect for him.
Yeah. So now back to career. So you came as a civil engineer. You partnered with your colleague from the school,
Chowda, yeah.
And then flourished, I think.
That's right, yeah.
In your professional career, do you remember any events that may interest our audience, maybe? That you feel you want to share?
We were lucky. I started. I returned to Tanzania in 1964. 65, I think I got married, and from 64 to 68, I was working in a construction company just to get experience. You know, engineering is a big, wild subject. And I joined a company called United Construction Company. There were one Greek and one South Indian, very nice people. And I got very good experience actually. So, and at that time, my partner Chowda was still in London. He was working here. When he came to Tanzania, his mother was the person who would take the front role in his career, and she went around to all the engineering companies, and then she found that his son would be better off with me. Now you see, I'm a Muslim, he's a Hindu, but that did not prevent us.
Good relationship.
Yeah. And a very principled person, very nice family. So we joined hands together, and we were very lucky that during that period there were very few qualified people, very few. And Tanzania was upcoming, people were investing, building houses. So we had a fairly big share of the construction, very fairly big share.
And all over the country?
All over the country.
Did you have to travel?
Oh, yeah. We had to travel. I must have been to at least 30, 40 places far away in jungle and whatnot, and some big adventures also, but we went to almost all corners of Tanzania because Tanzania was developing at that time, and also we had some good experiences. I would not say good, but some very exciting experiences.
Share a couple of them with us.
Okay, let me do like this. Let me share with you from when I was a boy of 8-year-old. At that time, my uncle and my aunt, they were in Moshi, and they came to Dar es Salaam to go to Zanzibar to do shopping. Because in Zanzibar you can get a good price, good materials. His son was getting married, and so it was a marriage shopping. And there were no Air Tanzania or Air Kenya at that time. It was privately owned charter flights. James Jaffer
which took passengers from Dar es Salaam to Zanzibar.
10 passengers per flight. If you were taking a shower, the car would wait until you finish yours and go to the airport. And so my uncle and my aunt had planned to go in the morning, come back in the evening. So I went to the airport also I was young, 80-year-old, with the driver, and my father was there. So my uncle said, "Look, you want a ride? You can come with us." So I was very small. I did not know what to say, yes or no. But my father pushed me. He said, "Go and come back in the evening." At that time, not realizing that I had no passport, nothing. But at that time, the formalities were also very minimum. So I must have jumped in, I went to Zanzibar. It was in the evening when we were returning. We were all seated in the aircraft, and the aircraft started the engine. It was on the runway, and suddenly everybody started running in the plane. Now, I'm a small boy, so it was a long time ago, but this is what I still remember. Everybody started running in the aircraft, jumping out of the door, and now I was sharing the seat with my aunt, and she was wearing that burqa.
Burqa. The veil.
The veil. And she was sitting, and I was on her lap. And suddenly I saw outside the window, and I can still see flames. The plane was on fire.
Right.
The plane was on the runway, but it had stopped.
Yeah.
Now the plane is on fire.
Okay.
All the passengers, pilot, everybody out. Me and my aunt.
Inside the aircraft, yeah.
So I must have been frightened or got a message. I tried to run to the exit door, but then in the meantime 4 or 5 people came from outside. My uncle must have told them that, "Look, my aunt is there, she's trapped inside." So they took me, but I fell down, and I think I hurt my head here and my tooth. But my aunt was trapped in the plane. She was very badly burnt.
Okay.
And after that, we stayed a few days in Zanzibar.
So is this the first incident of aircraft, or was there any more?
No,
that
there are more. I tell you.
So, well, very briefly, let's have another one, because we haven't got much time. Because I want to still talk about the community life.
Okay, the second one was in 1978. when there was a war between Tanzania and Uganda, Idi Amin.
Did you stay with the family at that time, or in that incident, did you stay with the family?
Yeah, family. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So this we had a project in Tabora. So we went to Tabora by plane. Me and my partner, not my partner, but my office colleague. And the plane was going to go from Tabora to Kigoma, further up. And in the evening, the plane would come back from Kigoma to Tabora, and then we go back to Dar es Salaam. So it was a day's trip. Now, when the plane came from Kigoma to Tabora in the evening, the army chief came to the airport. He says, I cannot allow any fuel because we need fuel for this. We are in the war zone.
Right.
So I said, then what happens? He said, well, tomorrow you might get some more fuel and then you can go proceed. They were nice and polite. There was no. So we said, okay, now in Tabora, you don't know where to stay. But there was one Ismaili family, very nice people, two brothers and one wife of one brother. Said, why don't you come and stay with us? I said, but I don't want to inconvenience you. He said, no, you are not. At 4 o'clock in the morning, we go to the Jamaat Khana. That is the only time you might find some noise in the house. Otherwise, it's a quiet house. I said, okay, fine, I'll stay. So I stayed one night there. Next day, the more fuel came, and we were able to return to Dar es Salaam. 15 days later, I heard the news. Now, this was protected news that one aircraft has been shot down over Morogoro. It was a war zone at that time, Morogoro. And 3 people died. Now, I said, what is this? 3 people died from where? He said, you were flying from Tabora to Nairobi via Morogoro, over Morogoro airspace. And the plane has been shot down by the army. And these 3 people were the people I stayed with.
Oh, you stayed with. Oh, what a shock, tragedy.
Yes, I tell you, it gave me the shock of my life.
Yeah. Just shows our life, how fragile the life is.
How fragile the life is.
So, Mohamed Bhai, let's move on to...
Now, another incident I will tell you, just a small one.
Okay.
We also went one day to Zega. Zega is near Tabora, place called Zega. And it's a small village. Now, we were doing a project there. So we came to Zega. The plane landed in Zega. And the whole town came to Zega airport. Because for them it was something, fantastic. We finished our work and we said, okay, now we are going back to Tabora. We were going further because it was a round trip. On the way to the airport, the contractor, who was Ismaili again, he was taking us to the airport. And on the way, the car was something like a hump. It took a jerk,
Right.
And then he went further. So I said, what was that? He said, do you know we passed over a python? I said, and then you feel nothing? He said, well, it happens once in a while, but we are familiar with it. But I hope he's not dead because I have heard stories, I have heard stories that if you kill a python, then the python's family
return.
Anyway, so this was, by the way, anyway, we came to the airport. We were all seated. There were 4 of us in the flight. The pilot took off the plane. After 15 minutes, I was sitting next to the pilot. The pilot said, look, Mr. Pirbhai, I want to tell you something. I said, what is it? You don't sound very cheery. He said, look outside. I look outside. I saw the cap of the fuel tank was hanging in the air.
Uh-huh.
All the fuel was coming out of the aircraft.
All right.
He says, I've got 10 minutes. Now, do I go this way or this way? I don't know. But I said, well, you are telling me now. I'm also not very familiar with all these things. He said, but okay, you leave it to me. I will do what I would think is right. Don't tell your people at the back what is happening because they might panic. And I said, okay, you just carry on. So he turned the aircraft back. And just about when the fuel was about to finish, he landed.
So saved.
Saved. Saved, you see.
So the Python's vengeance didn't work then.
So these were the small things, you know.
But this was during your career, professional career, where you were going out to do the projects.
Yeah, there was one small incident. We were going from Dar es Salaam to Mbeya for inspection of a project. And normally when we go from on safari, I don't allow anybody to drive. Even my driver, we take with him, but he sits next to me. And I drive.
Right.
Sometimes it is 8 hours, 10 hours, depending on the... So we were going to Mbeya for inspection of this project. And with me was my office assistant. He was a Bora chap. He was pestering me. He said, why don't you give me driving? You know, I'm a good driver. And I said, look, I have told you from the beginning that I don't let anybody to drive. So just keep your mouth a little bit under control. Then after just 35 miles before we reached our destination, I don't know, I softened my stand and I said, okay, let me give him half an hour driving. So I said, okay, let us change the seats. So he took the wheel and I tell him, I said, look here, look, there is a lorry standing there. I'm pointing like this. I thought he heard me, but he did not.
So?
He went right inside the lorry.
He hit the lorry?
Hit the lorry. And it was a Tanus car. You know, Tanus has got a very large, big front.
Now, Tanu was a government party, right, of Tanzania.
So, no. The car was Tanus make, Tanus German make.
Oh, German make, okay. Right.
So it was just got a long front, engine front.
Yeah.
And the wheel came on his chest.
Oh.
And he was sort of unconscious. I broke my teeth. Two
So
teeth.
this is the second time you broke?
Second time. My lips here were hanging, too much blood. And there were two Somalis who were standing by that lorry. So they saw the accident, they came to us, and then there was another car which was coming behind us. So they all stopped. Now we were both, bleeding too much. So the Somali said, look, let me take you to the hospital. But before I take you to the hospital, I have to go pass through the police station and give a report. I said, there is no time because we are all bleeding. And he said, well, I can't otherwise take you. I have to observe the rules. So we had no choice. So we went to the police station. Now the policeman was not, he was... He had too much to drink, So
he was drunk?
He was drunk, so he could not write the report. So I said, now it's a problem. But so the driver said, never mind, let us go to the hospital. I will explain to my office that the policeman was not fit. So we went to the hospital. The doctor showed us. He was a very nice doctor. But he said, look, I can help you, but... I need a report from the police station that you were involved. I said, look here, my friend. He can't give us a report. He's not in a condition. So please treat us, He said, but I have no beds. I said, make some arrangements and we are prepared to compensate whoever is there. Then he gave me some stitches here but my Bora chap was still unconscious. So the doctor asked me, do you know anybody in Mbeya? I said, yes, I know Mr. Khan in Mbeya. So he said, let me call Mr. Khan. So people knew Mr. Khan in the hospital. So they called Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan came, he saw me and my partner and lot of blood, he fainted.
So now you have three of them.
Three of us.
Yeah.
So next morning, then Mr. Khan, they brought him to his level, then he took us to his house. Now, every time I travel, in the evening I ring my house, my wife or my mother, that I have reached the destination. Now, that day was not possible. So next day I rang up my house. So I told my wife, I said, everything is fine, I've come for inspection and don't worry. Of course, that was not the truth. But, yeah, my mother caught me. She said, no, there's something wrong. You are not the same. Okay.
Sorry.
You are not the same, Muhammad. Something has happened.
Yeah.
So I said, okay.
Take your time. It's always a mother. Mother is always mother.
So anyway, so I said, this is what has happened. He said, never mind, you have told me. Then I said to myself, every time I went on safari, my mother would take out sadhka.
Yeah.
Rice and plate and whatnot. So I said, I'm saved because of this. Anyway, so that part was over, and we got the charter flight next day. And we came back to Dar es Salaam. It took nearly 3 months for me to recover from the injuries. And this Bora chap took much longer because he was hurt very badly. So this was during my office tenure.
That's right, yeah. Let me just move along, Mohamed Bhai, because I know there was another event that you also had to go through very, very badly, which we'll come to in a minute. But I just want to finish this part, and we sort of then continue with the community life. You were interested in a lot of sports as well when you were in your young days, and I understand that you were a chairman or president of Tanzania Cricket Association.
Oh, yeah, from sports is in my life, it's my blood actually.
Right, okay.
Going back a little bit, in 1957, I was Tanzania students table tennis champion. I was nationally open table tennis champion at that time. And
champion?
Champion,
okay.
Yeah. Then it came to cricket. I was playing for first division school team, first division national team. And then I became chairman of selection, Tanzania 11, cricket 11 chairman.
Okay.
It was, I was controlling, I had a lot of power, which was never misused. And, but we managed to put our 3 or 4 very good cricketers in Tanzania.
Name some.
Bashir Tajani, Mohammad Nathu, Yusuf Kabana.
So they then became prominent.
Yeah. For example, there was a case when Bashir Tajani was not selected
for the Tanzanian.
And at that time, I could not attend the meeting. It was all done a little bit behind my back. And next day, I had to take action.
Okay.
And it was not easy. It was against very powerful people.
Really?
Very powerful people, yeah.
But you managed to then?
I managed to, managed to. You see, what I did not want, I want every deserving person must get respect.
Sure.
Whether he's from this community or from that community. And that principle of mine paid off. Because I was able to get support also from others.
Okay. So that fairness principle paid off. Yeah.
Fairness principle paid off. So there was no favoritism then.
No. And that was required there.
That
at
was
the time,
required.
yeah.
Because don't forget, there's people from, I mentioned 4 names, and there were more names. They were from Zanzibar, very good players.
Mhm.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
lot of respect for them.
Right. So, Mohamed, I want to move forward
Okay.
into your community life now,
Mm.
because you have contributed a huge amount in community life as in a prominent position, but also behind the scene, because a lot of advice was taken from you by many presidents that you worked with. So, what? Let me begin by asking you, what sort of made you go into community work?
You see, it comes from my ancestors. For example, my great grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
he was president of Dar es Salaam Jamaat, Karmal Ali Bhai.
Oh yes, I
Yeah.
remember that period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Karmal Ali Bhai. And his son, that is my uncle, Allah Rakya Bhai, was also. Then my father was Mukhi for many, many
That's
years.
right. Yeah.
And so I got connected that way.
To the community. Yeah.
And somehow it gave me satisfaction and a lot of pleasure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, working for the community. And 1967, I was a member of a committee member of Shnashi
So
Jamaat.
you must be what, 20 something?
27, yeah.
27.
27, yeah. I was committee member. At that time, Hussein Nasser Walji was the president. Very
Oh,
nice.
that time, yeah.
He was very good president at that time. And then Fida Hussein Amir was there. And his contribution to the community has to be noted very earnestly, because he was the person who started this housing project. So,
Whereabouts was that in Dar es Salaam?
you know about Kabristan?
Yes, yes.
There's Kabristan Tawhidi flats and Mohammedi flats.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So those were the time when Zanzibar Revolution had just, and then a lot of migration had occurred.
Migration had occurred. And him and Anwar Rajpar always is very efficient in his work. So these
Because
two
you've known Anwar Rajpar since the days of Ishnashi Union.
That's right, yeah. And these two people started this project. Then the third, it was for purchase scheme.
So
Yeah.
community can purchase the
Purchase.
flats,
And
yeah.
if I remember right, it was 32,000 shillings
At that time.
at that time to be paid in installments.
Okay.
Come 1971, the Acquisition of Buildings
Act came. Yeah.
and all of a sudden these people who had, some of them who had purchased these apartments were panicked, and they started selling off without having cleared the loans, you see.
Okay.
Now, the community Jamaat had taken loan from our business people, like Juma Haji, Numa Machesa.
They were the philanthropists of the time. Yeah.
Of the time, yeah. So I think they were very kind also. They said, never mind, there is a lot of confusion at the moment. We will not press for our, money. And that way, and for the time being, I think people then settle down. Then there's people put up a third block, Alawi flats, with Hussein Amir. It was only for poor people from Zanzibar.
Right.
So these Zanzibar people, 16 families were
housed
there. Another point I want to make out is, our present Imam Bada in Dar es Salaam. That land belonged to Bora community. Bora community. And Anwar Rajpar and Fida Hussein Amir, they somehow convinced the Bora community to sell that piece of land to us, Ishnashi community. So that was done for 80,000 shillings, if I remember right.
This was in 1960s?
In 1960s, yeah.
Okay.
60s. So you see their contribution is quite notable.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was very fundamental at the time.
very fundamental,
Yeah, for the
yeah.
community expansion and all that, yeah.
Then
Yeah.
in 71, I think when Rajpal went to Karachi,
Mm.
and he continued the same work, I believe, and I think he did a lot of
Yeah, Zainabia Flats.
Zainabia Flats,
Yeah,
and then
it was very hugely
was-
helpful to many people there. Yeah.
and there was a lull period in Dar es Salaam after the acquisition of buildings. There was no development at all for the next 15 years.
Really.
Yeah,
But the Islam community needed housing.
needed housing.
Right. Okay.
Needed housing.
So when did the expansion of housing under whose leadership that began?
Anwar Dharamsi was very keen that every family should.
I thought Ali Raza Rajani previously wasn't
Before-
he
before-
involved with
Yeah, before Anwar Dharamsi, Ali Raza Rajani came in. And he was very good, I must say. He acquired a number of plots.
That's
land,
right, yeah.
Number of plots land, which was very important.
Mm.
And he was the initiator of
That
development,
expansion of it, yeah.
And then Anwar Dharamsi, I think he also took very serious interest in the development of apartments. And under him, 3 blocks, 12-story high,
Were built.
were built. 1 car park and 2 residential, 80 apartments.
Right.
Maveni, Mataka, and then the Saboro car park. Yeah.
Which is behind the Imambara.
Imambara, yeah.
So that helped the community park.
Park, yeah. I believe now the community is also doing other projects on the similar basis.
Yeah.
But these 2 buildings were masterpiece, So,
Yeah.
Right.
So you worked with quite a few presidents. I mean, I'm just named a few. Ali Raza Bhai Rajani was there. I mean, you were presumably, if you're not working directly, then at least advising them, particularly in construction and housing and plots buying. After Ali Raza was Anwar Dharamsi, Pyar Ali Bhai Shivji came as the Dar es Salaam president. Then you also worked with Shiraz Walji was another president,
right, yeah.
and then you also had a chance to work with Mohamed Bhai Dirani and Habib Bhai Mulji.
Habib Bhai Mulji, yeah.
And then you became a vice president and worked with them
That's
at
right,
that
yeah.
level.
Yeah, that's right.
So what was your, give me some idea as to when you became a vice president of Africa Federation, what event?
It was not a very good start in one way. That when I became vice president of Africa Federation, and Mohamed Irani was president at that time. Asghar Parwani was there, Zul Devji was there, and we took our first trip to Mombasa.
Okay.
And we made a stopover in Tanga about lunchtime after meeting the officials of Tanga Jamaat. After lunch we started towards Mombasa, where there was a function in which our president was required. Unfortunately, we met with a very serious accident on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were in 2 cars, 4 in each, and Muhammad Somji was driving 1 car. I was sitting next to him. Behind me was Ahmad Alu, and behind Muhammad Somji was Bashir Tajani.
Father of Sajjad.
Sajjad,
Okay.
yeah. And we hit a lorry, and not a lorry, a bus. It was coming from the opposite direction, and our car went into the ditch. And this is how I can see the picture. The car went and hit a tree. And now it was a fast-moving car, so you can imagine the accident was quite serious. And Muhammad Somji was unconscious, I could see Mama Bashir Tajani with full of blood, and his head was trapped in the frame of the window, and he could not move. Now the first car had already gone in front of us. They did not know what has happened behind. Yeah. Then when after half an hour, they must have realized that something is not okay. So they came back and they saw us. So it was quite serious. Now it was around 4 o'clock, I think. So Zul Devji said, let us first of all take these two people to the Tanga hospital. And then the other car would they will find some sort of a lift to come to other people, to Tanga hospital. So Zul Devji drove the car. I was sitting behind. My Mama Somji was on my lap, he said. And Bashir Tajani was in the front seat, but he was completely,
unconscious.
Unconscious, yeah. So we came to this Tanga hospital, and immediately Zul Devji and I ran to this officer in charge. Unfortunately, it was Saturday afternoon, so most of the staff members had gone away, and we were only two of us left. So we had to take assistance from one worker there to take a stretcher, and we came here. We took Mohamed Somji, took him to inside the ward, and Bashir is big built. It was difficult. Anyway, somehow we managed. We took him on the stretcher. Now Bashir was bleeding very badly. Now, fortunately, sometimes small things work, and telephones were working. Otherwise, telephones in the hospital was difficult.
Yeah.
So first thing I did was to ring up my wife. I said, look, this is what has happened. I'm all right, don't worry. But others are not all right.
Right.
Now you take these numbers, Tanga numbers, and try to ring Tanga. I am also trying to ring Tanga. Immediately we got hold of Tanga committee members. They came very quickly. Now, hospital did not have equipments to deal with this kind of injuries. For example, they did not have gloves. They did not have bed sheets, nothing. Fortunately, we had one of our community member doctors. He came, he was very good. And he took Bashir to this give stitches. If I remember right, Bashir had, I've never seen anybody's skull before in my life. I could see his skull, he was bleeding like anything. The frame, the door frame, had gone through his scalp, you see.
Okay.
And his thigh and the leg here was also bleeding like anything. And our Snashi doctor, he put 70 stitches
in the leg.
On the leg, yeah.
What about the skull?
Now the skull was a problem. So he had no choice but to put bandage on the skull. Now this accident was very serious, so he could not be treated in Tanga. So we very quickly decided that we go to Nairobi. Now to go to Nairobi, you need transport, you need a vehicle to take us to Nairobi. But Asghar Parwani, another very efficient chap, he rang up his son, Munir, that you send an aircraft with a good pilot. There's some emergency. And Munir made the arrangements for the aircraft to come to Tanga. We decided that we should go to Mombasa because Nairobi it was a little bit further. So we said, okay, we go to Mombasa. Now Mombasa had a problem. They were doing this airport construction. And they said after 8 o'clock, no planes would be allowed to land. It was already coming to 7 o'clock. So we said, what to do? Now, We got all the papers, everything done. The immigration officer were not seen.
Oh.
So we had to go to Tanga, everywhere, find out where the immigration officer.
Mm.
We got hold of them in a place.
Mm.
They came to this airport and they put the stamp. Then we were all, myself, Asghar Parwani, Bashir Tejani, and Mohamed Somji in the aircraft and the pilot, 5 of us.
Mm.
Now Mohamed Somji and Bashir Tejani were on the floor of the aircraft.
Mm.
Me
Bashir Tejani was still unconscious?
Unconscious, completely unconscious. And Mohamed Somji also unconscious because he was not given any attention. All the attention was with Bashir Tejani.
Right.
Because he was bleeding like anything.
Right.
And Mohamed Somji was not bleeding, but he was hit.
Yeah, so there might be internal bleeding.
Internal bleeding. So anyway, we sat in the aircraft. The aircraft took over. It was already past 8 o'clock. So we came near Mombasa. Mombasa gave a warning, you can't land. Now this pilot was, I think, British pilot, He said, look, no matter what happens, I've got passengers dying, I cannot wait. I have to land, He's, in his own language he must have said. So we landed in Mombasa. In the meantime, we had informed, we means the Jamaat of Tanga, Mombasa, that this has happened and you receive these people. So the Mombasa Jamaat people came to the airport and they cleared all the formalities. And Mohamed Somji and Bashir Tejani were taken to the Aga Khan hospital. And if I remember right, they stayed over 2 months.
Right, so it just shows how, again, fragile our lives are. And then also it shows how community rallies together at the time of emergencies to help in a situation like this. Now, we haven't got much time. I've only got a couple of minutes because I've been, just last question to you. Now, you worked at different stages within the community. So do you have any message to impart to the community from your experiences knowing community? What sort of advice you will give to leaders or the community generally about our own community as we move forward?
You see, the other day, one person came to me. He said, I want your advice. I said, what advice do you want? He said, I've been offered a post in our community, but I believe a lot of problems in the community. So I said to him, that is why they want you. You solve the problem. He said, no, you have not answered my question. That you have worked in the community, would you work again? I said, anytime. I'm proud of my community. It's a good community. Maybe sometimes we have differences, but after all, it's one family. And I said, whatever life you spend for the community, you will never regret it. You will say, community, our community is our community. I worked for 6 years as vice chairman. I learned a lot. I met many people. I visited many places. And I think, and I'm very happy that I could do it.
And you have gone through quite a lot of eventful issues and challenges within the community, even during your time. I remember because you worked together on some issues. So at the end of the day, the community is moving forward in a positive way. Would you say that is the case?
I would say that. I tell you a simple example I'm giving you. We were Africa Federation, lot of work to be done, and then we get issues. There was one issue in Dodoma, 21 families. So during Ashura, we should make khichdi or we should make pilau. So that was their main problem. I said,
and that became a big issue.
Big issue. And I said, there are no other things you want to tell us. You are telling us about this khichdi and pilau. So we compromised. We said, okay, you you take khichdi. Those who want to eat khichdi, they will eat khichdi.
So maybe that's the solution. You have to distribute both the ideas.
But
Anyway,
it's a good community, and whoever takes up a position, I'm sure he will enjoy.
Yeah.
And there are names I can give you, so many, like Amir Khanji in the past,
Yes.
Alusen Ratansi in the past.
That's right.
They've all given
Akbar
lot
Bhai
of
Jessa in
Akbar
the
Bhai
past,
Jessa, your father, I think.
Yeah.
Akbar Bhai
Asnali
Panjwani,
Bhai Virji.
Asnali Bhai Virji. There are many, who have
Many
given,
silent social workers as
social
well.
workers, and they've given lot
And
of.
actually, they make up the moving parts of the community in many
That's
ways.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway, Mohd Bhai, yeah, our time is up now.
I think you
So,
are right.
and I have learned a lot from and many inspiring events that you have gone through, and some very near misses as well. And of course, we must remember our mothers who have always prayed for us, and they do pray for us. So let us recite Surah Fatiha for our mothers. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. Thank you very much indeed for giving us this opportunity to hearing you out and sharing your experience.
Okay,
Thank you very much
Thank you.
indeed. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening to this conversation, and inshallah we'll be listening to many such conversations in the times to come. Thank you very much.